Hey guys, welcome back to Cyber Platter. Today we'll see a step-by-step guide for implementing a third-party risk management program. Third-party risk management is a crucial process to ensure that external vendors and partners do not pose significant risks to your organization. First step is define scope and objectives. First, let's talk about defining scope. Scope in TPRM refers to the boundaries and limits of the third-party risk assessment initiative. It outlines what the program will include and the specific areas or elements it will focus on. Defining the scope is crucial to ensure that the TPRM efforts are targeted, relevant, and aligned with organizational goals. Let's see some of the key components of defining scope in TPRM. First, external parties. Specify which external entities are covered by the TPRM program, such as vendors, suppliers, contractors, and service providers. Next, data types. Identify the types of data that will be considered within the scope, such as PII, that is personally identifiable information, financial data, intellectual property, or any other sensitive information. Next, regulatory compliance. Clarify if the TPRM program will specifically address compliance with industry regulations and standards, ensuring that third parties adhere to relevant legal requirements. Next, cybersecurity practices. Outline whether the scope includes an evaluation of third-party cybersecurity practices, incident response capabilities, and adherence to cybersecurity best practices. Now let's talk about defining objectives in TPRM. Objectives in TPRM articulate the specific, measurable, and achievable goals that the program aims to accomplish. These objectives provide a clear direction for the TPRM team, guiding their efforts to effectively identify, assess, and manage risks associated with external partners. Let's see some of the key components of defining objectives in TPRM. First one, comprehensive risk assessment. Specify the goal of conducting a thorough risk assessment for external partners, evaluating their cybersecurity controls and overall risk posture. Next, vendor performance metrics. Establish measurable key performance indicators, that is KPIs, to track and evaluate the cybersecurity performance of vendors, focusing on critical areas like incident response. Next, continuous monitoring. Define the objective of implementing continuous monitoring mechanisms to track changes in the risk landscape for each third party, ensuring ongoing risk awareness. Next, incident response collaboration. Outline the objective of fostering collaboration with third parties for joint incident response planning and simulation exercises to enhance coordinated responses to security incidents. Next, remediation support. Define the objective of providing support and guidance to third parties and implementing remediation measures for identified risks, fostering a collaborative approach to enhance overall cybersecurity resilience. So, in summary, defining the scope and objectives in TPRM is about clearly outlining what the program will cover and what specific goals it aims to achieve. This clarity is essential for effective planning, execution, and evaluation of the TPRM initiative. Let's go to the next step. Identify third parties. In this, the first one is vendor inventory. Create a comprehensive inventory or database that lists all external entities with whom your organization has a business relationship. This may involve collaboration with various departments to ensure a thorough list. Next, data classification. Categorize third parties based on the type and sensitivity of the data they have access to. Some third parties may handle more sensitive information than others, requiring different levels of scrutiny. Next, review contracts and agreements. Examine existing contracts and agreements to identify any external parties explicitly mentioned. This includes contractual agreements with suppliers, service providers, and other business partners. Next, engage stakeholders. Collaborate with different departments within your organization, such as procurement, legal, IT, and business units, to gather information about external entities they engage with. This steps lays the groundwork for a thorough understanding of the external entities that may pose risks to your organization's information security and operational resilience. Next step, risk assessment. Conduct a thorough risk assessment for each third party to evaluate cybersecurity controls, data protection measures, and overall risk posture. In this, the first one is risk identification. Identify potential risks associated with each third party. This involves considering factors such as the type of data they handle, their cybersecurity practices, and the criticality of the services they provide. Next, cybersecurity controls evaluation. Assess the effectiveness of the third party security controls, evaluate their security infrastructure, encryption methods, access controls, and other measures in place to protect sensitive information. Next one is data protection measures. Examine the third party's data protection measures, including data encryption, secure storage practices, and mechanisms for ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. Next, overall risk posture. Evaluate the third party's overall risk posture by considering the combination of identified risks, the effectiveness of controls, and the potential impact of a security incident on your organization. Next, quantitative and qualitative assessment. So, if you want to know more in depth about risk assessment and quantitative and qualitative analysis, there's a separate video. I will link it in the description box. I highly recommend going through it to understand the risk management process. This current video is particularly related to third party risk assessment. So, under quantitative and qualitative analysis step, you perform a quantitative and qualitative analysis of the identified risks, assign risk levels based on the likelihood and impact of each risk, considering both financial and non financial consequences. Next is risk prioritization. Prioritize risks based on their severity and potential impact on your organization. This helps in focusing resources on addressing the most critical risks first. Next, documentation. Document the results of the risk assessment for each third party, including identified risks, control effectiveness, and risk prioritization. This documentation serves as a basis for risk management decisions. Next, engage stakeholders. Involve relevant stakeholders, including cybersecurity experts, legal, and procurement teams, in the risk assessment process to gather diverse perspectives and expertise. Next, continuous monitoring consideration. Consider the need for continuous monitoring of third party risks, especially for high risk vendors or in dynamic business environments where risks may evolve. So, in this step, the focus is on evaluating and understanding the risks associated with each third party. The goal is to identify, prioritize, and document risks to make informed decisions about risk mitigation and management strategies. After risk assessment, the next step is categorizing third parties. First one, vendor classification. After identifying third parties, the next step is to categorize them based on the level of risk they may pose and the nature of their engagement with your organization. Next, risk levels. Assign risk levels to the third parties based on factors such as the sensitivity of the data they handle, the criticality of their services, and their overall impact on your organization if a security incident occurs. Next, criticality of services. Consider the criticality of the services provided by each third party. Those involved in core business functions or with access to highly sensitive information may be categorized differently from those with less critical roles. Next, regulatory compliance. Evaluate third parties in terms of regulatory compliance. Categorize them based on their adherence to industry specific regulations and standards relevant to your organization. Next, strategic importance. Consider the strategic importance of the third party to your organization. Some vendors may play a crucial role in your supply chain or service delivery, influencing their categorization. So, now let's see why categorizing third parties is important. First, informed risk management. Categorizing third parties allows organizations to prioritize their risk management efforts. High risk vendors or those with critical roles can receive more in depth assessments and monitoring, while lower risk entities may undergo less intensive scrutiny. Next, resource allocation. By categorizing third parties, organizations can allocate resources effectively. High risk vendors may require more frequent assessments, additional security controls, and closer monitoring, ensuring that resources are concentrated where they are most needed. Next, compliance alignment. Categorization helps align TPRM efforts with regulatory requirements. Different regulations may apply to vendors handling specific types of data or operating in certain industries. Categorizing third parties based on these factors aids in ensuring compliance. Next, tailored mitigation strategies. Different risk categories may require different mitigation strategies. By categorizing third parties, organizations can tailor their risk mitigation plans to address the specific challenges posed by each category, enhancing the effectiveness of risk management efforts. So, in summary, categorizing third parties in the TPRM process is crucial for informed and targeted risk management, and it enables organizations to allocate resources appropriately, align with regulatory requirements, and implement tailored mitigation strategies based on the varying risk levels of their external partners. Next step is due diligence. First, perform due diligence on third parties. That is, conduct a comprehensive due diligence process for each identified third party, especially those categorized as high risk. This involves a thorough examination of their business practices, security controls, and overall risk posture. Next, review security policies and practices. Evaluate the third party's security policies and practices. This includes their information security policies, data protection measures, and adherence to industry standard security frameworks. Next, assess compliance. Ensure that third party complies with relevant laws, regulations, and industry standards. This assessment may involve reviewing certifications, audit reports, and other compliance related documentation. Next, financial stability. Evaluate the financial stability of the third party. A financially unstable vendor may pose risks to the continuity of services or introduce operational disruptions. Next, review and assess the contractual obligations outlined in agreements with the third party. Ensure that security requirements, data protection clauses, and incident response expectations are clearly defined. Next, verify the implementation of security controls by the third party. This includes measures such as encryption, access controls, and regular security assessments. Next, past incidents and breaches. Investigate the third party's history of security incidents and data breaches. Understand how they responded to and mitigated previous incidents. Next, depending on the level of risk, consider conducting on site assessments or audits to get a first hand look at the third party's operations and security infrastructure. Next, establish performance metrics to measure the third party's ongoing security performance. Regularly monitor and assess their adherence to agreed upon security standards. Next, implement continuous monitoring to stay informed about any changes in the third party's risk posture. This may may involve periodic reassessments and real-time monitoring tools. Next, documentation and record keeping. Maintain thorough documentation of the due diligence process, including assessment reports, findings, and any corrective action plans developed in collaboration with the third party. So, by performing due diligence, organizations can gain deeper insights into the security practices and overall risk exposure of their third parties. This step is critical for making informed decisions about the level of risk acceptance, implementing appropriate controls, and fostering a secure and resilient third party ecosystem. Let's go to the next step, contractual agreements. Examine existing contracts and agreements to identify any external parties explicitly mentioned. This includes contractual agreements with suppliers, service providers, and other business partners. This step involves a detailed examination of the contracts and agreements that your organization has in place with external entities. Let's see some of the key aspects. The first one is collect contracts, that is, collect documents that outline the terms and conditions of your organization's relationships with external parties. This includes contracts with vendors, suppliers, service providers, and any other business partners. Next, identify third parties. Scrutinize each contract to identify any external parties explicitly mentioned. This includes the names of the vendors, suppliers, service providers, and other entities with whom your organization has a contractual relationship. Next, data access and handling. Review the sections of the contracts that address how the third parties handle and access data. This is crucial for understanding the potential risks associated with the handling of sensitive information. Next, security and compliance requirements. Check for clauses related to security measures and compliance requirements that third parties are expected to adhere to. Ensure that these align with your organization's standards and regulatory obligations. Next, risk allocation and liability. Review how risks and liabilities are allocated between your organization and the third parties. This includes understanding who bears responsibility in the event of a security incident or data breach. Now let's look at the purpose of reviewing contracts and agreements. First one is identification of relationships. This step serves the purpose of identifying and confirming the external parties with which your organization has established contractual relationships. It helps create a clear picture of the scope of third-party engagements. Next, risk assessment foundation. Contractual agreements often outline the terms related to data handling, security measures, and compliance. By reviewing these contracts, you lay the foundation for the subsequent risk assessment of each identified third party. Next, legal and compliance alignment. Ensuring that contractual agreements align with legal and compliance requirements is crucial for mitigating legal risks and ensuring that third parties adhere to necessary standards. So, the information obtained from reviewing contracts feeds into the broader TPRM process by providing a basis for assessing and managing risks associated with each third party. This step ensures that third party engagements are in line with organizational policies, regulatory requirements, and security standards. Let's go to the next item, security controls implementation. First one, implement security controls. Once risks have been assessed and the necessary risk treatment plans have been identified, the next step is to implement security controls. These controls are measures and safeguards designed to mitigate identified risks and enhance the overall security posture associated with third-party relationships. Next, technical controls. Implement technical controls such as firewalls, encryption, access controls, and intrusion detection systems to protect against cyber threats and secure data transmission. Next, policy and procedure implementation. Enforce security policies and procedures to govern the behavior of third parties. This may include data handling policies, incident response procedures, and adherence to compliance standards. Next, regular monitoring. Implement continuous monitoring mechanisms to ensure that the implemented security controls are effective over time. This involves real time monitoring, periodic assessments, and audits. Next, incident response planning. Collaborate with third parties to develop and implement incident response plans. Define roles and responsibilities to ensure a coordinated and effective response in case of a security incident. Next, training and awareness programs. Provide training and awareness programs to third party personnel to ensure they understand and adhere to the implemented security controls. This helps foster a security conscious culture. Next, regular audits and assessments. Conduct regular audits and assessments to evaluate the ongoing effectiveness of security controls, identify areas for improvement, and address any emerging risks. Now, let's look at the importance of security controls implementation. First, risk mitigation. Security controls help protect against cyber threats, unauthorized access, and data breaches. They serve as a line of defense to mitigate the risks identified during the risk assessment process. Next, regulatory compliance. Implementation of security controls ensures compliance with industry regulations and standards. It demonstrates a commitment to safeguarding sensitive information in accordance with legal requirements. Next, incident response. Security controls coupled with incident response planning enable organizations to respond effectively to security incidents. This includes identifying, containing, and mitigating the impact of incidents. Next, monitoring and auditing. Continuous monitoring and regular audits contribute to a culture of continuous improvement. They help organizations adapt to evolving threats and ensure that security controls remain effective over time. So, in summary, the security controls implementation step in the TPRM process involves translating risk treatment plans into actionable measures. This ensures that third party relationships are governed by robust security controls, leading to enhanced security and resilience within the organization. Let's go to the next step, monitoring and surveillance. Once third parties have been identified and their risks assessed, ongoing monitoring and surveillance are crucial to ensure that the risk landscape remains current and any changes in the external entity's risk posture are promptly identified. So let's see what this step involves. First is continuous monitoring mechanisms. Establish mechanisms for continuous monitoring of third parties. This may involve leveraging automated tools, security assessments, and real-time threat intelligence to stay informed about potential risks. Next, risk landscape updates. Regularly update the risk landscape associated with each third party. Changes in business practices, personnel, or technology can impact the overall risk profile, and these updates need to be captured. Next, incident response monitoring. Monitor third parties' incident response capabilities and effectiveness. This includes tracking their response times to security incidents and assessing the efficiency of their incident response plans. Next, regulatory compliance tracking. Keep track of changes in regulatory requirements that may impact third parties. Ensure that external entities maintain compliance with relevant laws and standards. Next, utilize performance metrics to measure the ongoing cybersecurity performance of third parties. This could include metrics related to vulnerability management, patching, and adherence to security best practices. Next, conduct regular audits and assessments to validate the effectiveness of third party security controls. This ensures that they continue to meet the agreed upon security standards. Next, foster a culture of information sharing between your organization and third parties. Promptly communicate any security incidents, changes in policies, or other relevant information that may impact the risk landscape. Next, develop strategies for responding to changes in the risk profile of third parties. This may involve adjusting risk mitigation measures, revisiting contracts, or engaging in dialogue to address emerging risks. Next, update documentation related to third parties, including risk profiles and monitoring reports. Maintain a comprehensive record of monitoring activities for auditing and reporting purposes. Next, stakeholder communication. Communicate relevant monitoring findings to key stakeholders within your organization. This ensures that decision makers are informed about any changes in the risk status of third parties. So, the monitoring and surveillance step is integral to maintaining a proactive approach to third party risk assessment. It allows organizations to adapt to evolving risks and ensure that external entities continue to meet the required security standards over time. Regular and vigilant monitoring is key to mitigating potential threats and maintaining a secure business environment. Let's go to the next one, incident response planning. This is a crucial component of TPRM that focuses on preparing for and responding to security incidents involving third parties. This step ensures that there is a well-defined and coordinated approach to managing and mitigating the impact of incidents that may affect the security of your organization's information or operations. Let's look at the key activities here. First one, collaborative planning. For example, engage with third parties to collaboratively develop incident response plans. This may involve joint planning sessions, scenario-based exercises, and discussions to ensure alignment in responding to potential incidents. Next, define roles and responsibilities. Clearly define the roles and responsibilities of both your organization and third parties in the event of a security incident. This includes communication protocols, escalation procedures, and specific actions to be taken by each party. Next, information sharing protocols. Establish protocols for sharing critical information related to incidents. Define what information needs to be shared, the channels through which it will be communicated, and the timing of notifications. Next, incident detection and reporting. Implement mechanisms for timely detection and reporting of incidents by both your organization and third parties. This may involve the use of security tools, monitoring systems, and reporting procedures outlined in contractual agreements. Next, conduct simulation exercises to test the effectiveness of the incident response plans. Simulations can help identify gaps, improve coordination, and enhance the overall readiness of both your organization and third parties. Next, define clear escalation procedures for escalating incidents to higher levels of management or authorities if necessary. Ensure that these procedures are understood and agreed upon by all parties involved. Next, legal and regulatory compliance. Ensure that incident response plans comply with legal and regulatory requirements. Consider the specific regulations that may impact incident reporting and response, and incorporate these into the planning process. Next, establish a process for continuous improvement of incident response plans. Regularly review and update plans based on lessons learned from real incidents, simulation exercises, and changes in the threat landscape. So, the incident response planning is interconnected with other steps in the TPRM framework. It draws on information gathered during risk assessments, relies on effective communication established in in earlier steps and informs the ongoing monitoring and assessment of third-party security practices. So, in summary, incident response planning in TPRM is about ensuring a proactive and coordinated approach to managing security incidents involving third parties. This preparedness enhances the overall resilience of your organization and its external partners in the face of potential security threats. Let's go to the next step, regular audits and assessments. First, objective. The objective here is to conduct regular audits and assessments to ensure ongoing compliance with security standards and contractual agreements. Next, let's talk about the frequency. Establish a regular schedule for audits and assessments based on the criticality of the third party and the risk they pose. High risk vendors may require more frequent evaluations. Next, define the scope of the audits, covering aspects such as cybersecurity controls, data protection measures, compliance with contractual agreements, and any other relevant factors. Next, utilize standardized audit methodologies or frameworks to assess the security posture of third parties. This may involve on site assessments, document reviews, and interviews with key personnel. Next is evaluate changes in the risk landscape and reassess the risk posture of each third party. This includes considering any incidents or changes in the business relationship that may impact risk. Next, maintain comprehensive documentation of audit findings, including identified risks, areas of non-compliance, and recommendations for improvement. Next, collaborate with third parties to develop and implement corrective action plans in response to identified issues. Monitor the progress of corrective actions to ensure timely resolution. Next, reporting. Generate regular audit reports for internal stakeholders and senior management. Communicate key findings, trends, and areas of concern along with recommendations for risk mitigation. Next, continuous improvement. Use audit insights to enhance the effectiveness of the overall TPRM program. Identify areas for process improvement and adjust audit methodologies based on lessons learned. So, the regular audits and assessment step is crucial for maintaining a proactive and vigilant approach to third party risk assessment. It ensures that the security controls and compliance measures of external entities are continuously monitored and aligned with the organization's standards and expectations. The frequency and depth of audits may vary based on the criticality of the third party and the dynamic nature of the risk landscape. Regular assessments contribute to ongoing risk awareness and support the organization in making informed decisions regarding its third party relationships. Let's go to the next aspect. Documentation and reporting. After identifying third parties and assessing their risks, the next crucial step in the TPRM process is the documentation and reporting phase. This step involves organizing and recording information about third party risks, controls, and mitigation strategies. Additionally, it includes the preparation and communication of reports to relevant stakeholders. Let's see the breakdown of this step. First is maintain a register. Establish and maintain a centralized register or repository that documents details about each identified third party. This register serves as a comprehensive database containing information such as contract details, the nature of the business relationship, and the type of data involved. Next, risk profiles. Develop risk profiles for each third party based on the assessments conducted. These profiles should outline potential risks, vulnerabilities, and the impact of each third party on your organization, security, and operations. Next, document of security controls. Document the security controls that are currently in place for each third party. This includes information about the measures and practices they have implemented to mitigate identified risks. Next, outline the recommended or implemented mitigation strategies. for each third party. This may include actions taken to address identified risks and enhance the overall security posture. Next, prepare reports that communicate the findings of the TPRM process. Reports should be tailored for different stakeholders, providing relevant information in a clear and understandable format. Next, stakeholder communication. Communicate the results and recommendations to relevant stakeholders such as senior management, legal teams, IT departments, and other business units. Ensure that the reports address their specific concerns and responsibilities. Next, frequency of reporting. Establish a reporting schedule determining how often reports will be generated and distributed. Regular reporting ensures that stakeholders stay informed about the evolving risks associated with third parties. Next, track the progress of remediation efforts based on the documented mitigation strategies. This involves monitoring whether the recommended actions are being implemented effectively by third parties. Next, documentation accessibility. Ensure that the documentation is easily accessible for auditing purposes. Maintain proper records to demonstrate compliance with regulatory requirements and internal policies. Next, include recommendations for continuous improvement in the TPRM process based on the findings and lessons learned during documentation and reporting. This ensures that the TPRM program evolves to address emerging threats and challenges. So, documentation and reporting are integral to the transparency and accountability of the TPRM process. They provide a basis for informed decision making, risk mitigation, and ongoing improvements in managing third party risks. Let's go to the next step. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is an ongoing and iterative process within the TPRM that involves refining and enhancing the effectiveness of the program over time. This step is crucial for adapting to changing risks, improving processes, and ensuring the TPRM program remains robust. Let's see the key aspects here. First is performance metrics review. Regularly review key performance indicators, that is KPIs and metrics established for the TPRM program. Assess whether they align with organizational goals and if adjustments are needed. Next, establish a feedback mechanism to collect input from various stakeholders, including internal teams, third parties, and audit teams. Use this feedback to identify areas for improvement. Next, conduct lessons learned sessions after major assessments or incidents. Analyze what worked well and what could be improved. Document these insights for future reference. Next, incident response evaluation. Evaluate the effectiveness of incident response mechanisms in collaboration with third parties. Identify any weaknesses or bottlenecks and implement improvements. Next, regulatory updates monitoring. Stay vigilant about changes in regulations and standards related to third party risk. Ensure that the TPRM program is updated to comply with new requirements. Next, benchmark the TPRM program against industry best practices. Identify areas where the program can be enhanced to meet or exceed industry standards. Next, technology integration. Explore new technologies and tools that can enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the TPRM program. Consider automation for routine tasks and advanced analytics for risk assessments. Next, implement regular training sessions for TPRM team members and relevant stakeholders. Keep them informed about emerging risks and updated procedures. Next, regularly review and update TPRM policies and procedures to ensure they align with evolving threat landscape, industry standards, and organizational changes. Next, collaborative improvement initiatives. Collaborate with key stakeholders, both internal and external, to identify joint improvement initiatives. This could involve shared best practices, joint training sessions, or collaborative risk assessments. So, in summary, continuous improvement in TPRM process is a proactive and adaptive approach. It involves regularly assessing the effectiveness of the program, learning from experiences, embracing new technologies, and collaborating with stakeholders to ensure that the organization stays resilient against evolving third party risks. Let's look at the next aspect of TPRM. Employee training and awareness. This involves educating and informing employees about the importance of third party risk, their role in mitigating these risks, and how to recognize and respond to potential issues. First aspect here is training programs. Develop comprehensive training programs to educate employees on the significance of third party risk assessment. This should include the potential risks associated with external entities, the impact on organizational security, and the importance of their role in mitigating these risks. Next, role clarification. Clearly define the roles and responsibilities of employees in identifying, reporting, and managing third party risks. This includes personnel from various departments such as procurement, IT, legal, and those directly engaging with external vendors. Next, recognizing risks. Train employees to recognize signs of potential risks or issues related to third parties. This could involve indicators of cybersecurity vulnerabilities, compliance concerns, or any other red flags that might pose a threat to the organization. Next, establish clear reporting mechanisms for employees to escalate concerns or incidents related to third party risks. This ensures that employees know where to report issues and that there is a structured process for handling such reports. Next, facilitate open communication channels between different departments involved in third party interactions. This promotes the sharing of information and concerns related to external entities, fostering a collaborative approach to risk assessment. Next, conduct periodic refresher training sessions to keep employees updated on evolving risks and changes in third party landscape. This is essential as the nature of risks may change over time and employees should stay informed. Next, organize simulations and exercises to allow employees to practice responding to potential third party risk scenarios. This hands on approach enhances their ability to identify and address risks in real world situations. Next, implement awareness campaigns to reinforce key messages about the third party risk management. This could include posters, newsletters, or other communication materials distributed throughout the organization. Next, integrate the third party risk awareness into the organization's corporate culture. Make it a shared responsibility for all employees to be vigilant and proactive in managing risks associated with external partners. Next, establish feedback mechanisms to gather input from employees on the effectiveness of training programs and the overall awareness initiatives. Use this feedback to continuously improve and tailor training content. So, employee training and awareness are crucial components of a successful TPRM program. By ensuring that employees are well informed and equipped to contribute to the identification and mitigation of third party risks, organizations can significantly enhance their overall risk management posture. Let's look at the next key aspect of TPRM, exit strategies. It refers to the steps and considerations involved in terminating or concluding relationships with third party vendors or partners. Developing effective exit strategies is crucial to ensure a smooth transition and mitigate potential risks associated with the discontinuation of a business relationship. Let's see the steps for exit strategies in the TPRM process. First, review contractual agreements. Examine the existing contractual agreements with the third party to understand the terms and conditions related to contract termination. Identify any notice periods, obligations, or penalties outlined in the contract. Next, Notification and communication. Notify the third party in advance of the decision to terminate the business relationship. Clearly communicate the reasons for the termination and any specific requirements or expectations during the exit process. Next, data retrieval and transfer. Establish a process for retrieving any data or information that the third party may have access to or control. Ensure a secure and complete transfer of data back to the organization or to a new service provider. Next, transition planning. Develop a comprehensive transition plan that outlines the steps, timelines, and responsibilities for the exit process. Include key milestones and checkpoints to track progress. Next, identify alternative vendors or service providers who can seamlessly take over the responsibilities or services previously provided by the existing third party. Evaluate their capabilities and initiate the onboarding process as needed. Next, ensure that the exit process complies with the legal and regulatory requirements. Address any contractual obligations, privacy considerations, or industry specific regulations that may impact the termination. Next, determine any financial settlements or obligations associated with the termination. This may include settling outstanding payments, handling contractual penalties, or negotiating terms for early termination. Next, employee transition. If the third party had personnel involved in the services provided, plan for the transition of these personnel or roles. Address any employment related considerations and communicate with affected employees. Next, security deprovisioning. Ensure the deprovisioning of access rights, credentials, and any other security related elements granted to the third party. This is crucial to prevent unauthorized access post termination. Next, conduct a post-exit evaluation to assess the success of the transition process. Identify lessons learned, areas for improvement, and any residual risks that need attention. Next, maintain comprehensive documentation of the exit process, including communication records, transition plans, and any agreements reached during the termination. This documentation is valuable for audits and future reference. Next, implement continuous monitoring of the organization systems, data, and operations post-exit to ensure that there are no lingering issues or security concerns arising from the termination. So, in conclusion, the effective exit strategies in the TPRM process help organizations manage the end of a business relationship with a third party in a structured and risk mitigated manner. This ensures that the organization can transition smoothly, safeguard its interests, and maintain a secure and compliant operational environment. So, these are the steps or key aspects of a TPRM, that is third party risk management process. Remember that third party risk management is an ongoing process that requires regular attention and adaptation to evolving threats and business relationships. Regularly communicate with third parties to maintain an open dialogue about security expectations and concerns. So that's it for today, guys. If you like today's video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our videos. It helps us a lot. I will see you in another video with another topic. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.